Dot's maternal grandmother, Matilda Bernadina, Dena Anderson, 1894 to 1970. Dena was born in Eskilstuna, Sweden, 70 miles west of Stockholm, April 22, 1894. Her parents met while working as farmhands. Her father, Franz, was a very good-natured man, never angry. Her mother, Clara, loved to crochet and knit. In 1905, the family immigrated to the U.S. on the SS Arabic White Star Line. Franz listed Smith as his occupation. Dena was 10.5 years old. They listed their destination as Ogden, Utah. They settled in Richmond, Utah, close to the Idaho border, near family. Dot's maternal grandfather, Arnold Oscar Lund, 1895 to 1967. Arnold was born on the 17th of May, 1895, in Hamar, Norway, 80 miles north of Oslo, but he grew up in Aalesund, a seaport. Lauritz and Amanda, Arnold's parents, were both tailors. Arnold was the oldest of 10 children, 5 pictured here. As a child, Arnold worked as a tailor in a factory in Aalesund. At 14, he was accepted to train under the tailor of the king in Oslo. He set out on a boat to Bergen, following his parents' advice. They hoped he could find an apprenticeship there, as it was much closer to home. But if Bergen offered no opportunities, their instructions were clear: to board the boat again and continue onward to Oslo. Arnold's first day in Bergen was tough. He searched tirelessly at tailor shops for work, but had no luck. Discouraged, hungry, and homesick, he nearly boarded the boat back to Aalesund. But something made him stay. He decided to give it another try in the morning. The next day, his perseverance paid off. He found a shop that had just finished with its previous apprentice and was looking for someone new. Arnold began working 12-hour days from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., earning just 25 cents a week. By the end of his apprenticeship, Arnold would be able to create an entire dress suit by hand, a true testament to his determination and hard work. Just before completing his 3-year apprenticeship, he received news that a member of the Mormon Church in Richmond, Utah, had arranged emigration funds for him, money he would repay later. These funds were, most likely, through the church program, the Perpetual Emigrating Fund. Arnold traveled on the Tunisian liner, Allen Shipping Lines. At a party in Richmond full of familiar faces, Arnold noticed someone he didn't recognize: Dena. Arnold initially found it difficult to find jobs as a tailor in Richmond. So he took a job at the Seago milk factory, where Dena worked, and their relationship blossomed. Arnold and Dena married, but their initial time together was brief. Just 1 month before Arnold left to serve in the military during World War I. He was stationed on Oahu, where he served, with the 1st Company of the Coast Artillery. When Arnold returned home, he met his first child, Melva, whom he affectionately called his dadder. Over time, the family grew, welcoming a son and 3 more daughters, including Ruth Margaret Lund, Dot's mother. Upon returning, he began working as a tailor in Richmond. And it made the paper when he left Richmond for Salt Lake City, where Arnold worked alongside his father, Lauritz. The couple initially lived in a house at the mouth of Memory Grove in Salt Lake City. They then moved to a house that was just south of 2700 South on 1300 East Street. Arnold's parents lived in a nearly identical house immediately east of them. In the 6th grade, while attending Highland Park School, Ruth won the Salt Lake Tribune Intermountain Spelling Bee competition. She went on to graduate from West High School in Salt Lake City. Dot's paternal grandmother, Ethel May Arnold, 1892 to 1983. Ethel was the daughter of Sadie Maud Davis, born in England, and Johannes John Ramsauer Arnold, born in Ohio. Both families moved to Evanston, Wyoming. Ethel was one of 6 siblings raised in Evanston, Wyoming. Ethel's 3 older siblings, pictured here, were Minerva, right, Franklin, left, and Florence, middle. Ethel's 2 younger siblings were Charles, a brother, and the baby of the family, Dorothy Bell Arnold, Dot's namesake. Dorothy Bell Arnold attended the University of Wyoming at Laramie and earned a degree in education in about 1921. Ethel and her sisters loved riding horses at their home in Wyoming. Ethel's father, John, served as the county clerk from 1888 to 1890, and then the Uintah County treasurer from 1890 to 1892. He took law classes from home through the Sprague Correspondence School of Law. He was a partner in Edick Stedman and Arnold from 1884 to 1890. And from 1914 to 1933, he was judge in Wyoming's 3rd Judicial District. Ethel often acted as a secretary and court reporter. Dot's paternal grandfather, Thaddeus Walton, 1886 to 1976. Thad was the son of Frances Matilda Huffaker, born in the territory of Utah, and Wesley Kimball Walton, Utah State Senator, born in Maine. In his youth, Wesley attended Norwich Military Academy in Vermont and graduated with a law degree at 17. He also studied at the New England School of Music in Boston, where he focused on the violin. Thaddeus's grandfather, Charles Wesley Walton, was elected as a Republican to the 37th United States Congress and served from March 4, 1861 to May 26, 1862, when he resigned to accept a judicial appointment. He was the Associate Justice of the Maine Supreme Judicial Court from 1862 to 1897. Thaddeus's father, Wesley Kimball Walton, left Maine and came west in 1872 as part of the Gold Rush. An illness caused him to remain in Salt Lake City. There, he met Brigham H. Roberts, historian and politician. They became close friends. After marrying Frances Huffaker, they decided to go north, to the house he had built near Woodruff, Utah. In 1890, they inherited land in Cottonwood from the Huffakers. They built a house with $10,000 given him by his father Charles Wesley. That house is known as the Red House today and is at 5197 South Wesley Road in Murray. Eventually, Wesley opened a ranch in Woodruff. And Wesley followed his father's footsteps and became active in politics, becoming a Utah State Senator as a Democrat. Thad grew up in this environment and was the sixth of 13 siblings. The Waltons were very musically talented. The family would travel and perform all over the area. Thaddeus was also an avid deer hunter. Possibly because both of their fathers were in politics, Thaddeus and Ethel appeared to be friends before their marriage. On June 20, 1912, Ethel Arnold married Thaddeus Walton. After the wedding, they moved onto a ranch and had 4 children, 3 daughters, and 1 son named John Arnold Walton, who would become Dot's father. John described life on the ranch.
Thad and Ethel liked wild ducks and sage chickens. In good weather, Dad would hitch up the buggy, load the family, take the shotgun, and have a nice ride in good hunting country. They always brought home game. Coyotes were a worry. They would get very bold and come closer and closer to the ranch house. Then one night they would come in and kill a sheep or turkey right in the yard. We always felt so bad. After the end of World War I, there was a depression that was very hard on the Woodruff ranchers. At the same time, for several years in a row, Woodruff suffered from a drought. The hay was very short and not nearly enough to feed the cattle through the winter. After 2 or 3 years, Mother and Dad decided to leave the ranch and move to Salt Lake City and find work. When we moved to Salt Lake City from Woodruff in April 1923, Dad went to work at the Utah Oil Refining Company as a refinery worker at the plant in North Salt Lake. Uncle Frank L. Arnold was the assistant superintendent of the refinery. Ethel took a job to bring in a little extra money. She worked for Hemingway and Moser, who operated the gift shops at the Newhouse Hotel and the Hotel Utah. She sold magazines, cigars, and gifts. Mother loved her work and met many nice people and enjoyed their friendships. The 4 children of this family had a happy life as youngsters. Ruth writes,
"We met and started dating in the fall of 1936. Plans were made to marry on the 4th of July weekend of 1938. A week before we were married, John lost his job. I was working at Woolworths, where I managed the kitchenware, pots and pans, pet, and pet food departments. Only single women could work at that time, so the only way to keep a job was to go to another county to be married. That way the marriage license wouldn't appear in the Salt Lake paper. Our plans were made. On Saturday, July 2nd, 1938. After work, we set out on what turned out to be a big adventure. Our destination was Tooele. Since the county offices were closed, we went to the home of the deputy county clerk, only to learn that she wasn't expected home until after midnight. We then tried to contact the judge, but he had gone to Grantsville to attend a water meeting. Undaunted, we drove to Grantsville and got the judge out of the water meeting. He said he could marry us, but couldn't issue the license. Next we drove to Kaysville, another county seat. This one north of Salt Lake. There we had no luck at all. It seemed everyone had gone out of town for the big weekend. By now it was getting pretty late. We took all of our wedding party back to Salt Lake City and headed back to Tooele after midnight now. The clerk, in Tooele, was back from her date and was in bed. She willingly got up, went to her office and issued us a license. Then we all went to the home of A.G. Gowans, who was a justice of the peace and also an LDS bishop. Finally, everything was in order, and the old grandfather clock in the room struck 1:30 a.m. as we said I do. It was kind of ironic that after all the trouble to keep my job, I soon had to quit anyway because of morning sickness. Our first baby, Dorothy Ann, was letting us know she was on her way.